Hello there, precious person, and welcome to the Sunday Success Sessions with me, Avril Quadros. Now, coming up, we're talking about something that afflicts the best of us. What is that? We're talking about fear. I want to give a shout out to all my ladies in a particular club who have requested me for the last video and this one. So please feel free to leave a comment below on any topic that you want me to do a video on. Because this channel, Avril's Cues, is your resource and what you want matters the most. So, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, share this with at least 1 to 3 people who you love and whom you want to help to up-level, and then let's settle in for a tete-a-tete. So what is fear? Well, fear is a natural and often an intense emotional response to a perceived threat or danger. It's a basic human emotion that's essential for our survival as it triggers our body's fight, flight, freeze, or faint response, preparing us to respond to potential danger. So basically, it's a primal response. It can be both normal and it can be a healthy response to dangerous situations to save us from them, or it can be a learned response to certain triggers or experiences, which may not serve us. Now, fear can manifest in a variety of ways, both physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally. Now, physically, fear can cause symptoms such as increased heart rate, sweating, shaking, or feeling of tension and heat in the body. Emotionally, fear can cause feelings of anxiety, panic, and a certain sense of impending danger or doom. Now, while fear can be helpful in keeping us safe in certain situations, it can also be extremely overwhelming and debilitating when it comes to excessive, irrational fear, such as, when you have phobias, and seeking professional help from a mental health expert, a therapist, or even a coach may be necessary to overcoming fear and to leading a fulfilling life. Now, we are born with only 2 or 3 fears. Now, different researchers say it's the first 2, and others say it's the second and the third. Now, these fears are, number 1, the fear of loud noises, number 2, the fear of fire, and number 3, the fear of falling, which means that all other fears are learned. So, this is great news, right? Think about it. What can be learned can be unlearned. So let's talk about the emotional response to any fear. Fear can have a profound effect on a person's emotions because when we experience fear, our body's flight, fight, freeze, faint response is activated, triggering a flood of adrenaline and other stress hormones. And these physiological changes can cause a range of emotional reactions, including number 1, anxiety. The number 1 reason why people are anxious is fear, because it causes a sense of unease, worry about potential danger or harm. Throughout this video, I want you to think about, you can even stop this video and think about, what are you anxious about? Every point that I introduce to you, I invite you to think about it. Where does this show up in your life? The next one is panic. Intense fear can lead to panic attacks, which is characterized by a sense of being overwhelmed, a racing heart, pulse rate, difficulty in breathing. And this is your body anticipating some kind of intense danger, and it goes into a state of panic where it can't even process information correctly and think straight. The third one is apprehension. Fear can create a sense of caution and apprehension towards people, situations, objects, anything that's perceived as threatening. That's why, think about your reactions towards things, about your unconscious or conscious biases towards things, people, situations. These are primarily based in some kind of fear. The next one is paranoia. Paranoia can, make a person see danger or threat where it may not exist. They get paranoid about something. It's like unnecessary. It's like irrational fear, paranoia about a person, about something that's going to happen to them, about a situation. And we've all been through our share of paranoia, right? The next one is avoidance. This can cause a person to avoid situations, people, things that trigger the fear response. And this ends up making people very lonely and isolated. This is where like social anxiety comes in, where people want to cocoon themselves because they only feel safe in a certain space where they have perceived control. Now, depression, chronic fear can lead to feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, and increase the risk of depression. I've noticed with depressed people, every single depressed person that I've worked with has an underlying fear. And it usually stems from something that's really deep rooted in the past. So, as you can see, my dear friends, the emotional effects of fear they vary. They depend upon the person, the situation. In some cases, fear can be helpful by keeping us safe from danger. But again, excessive or irrational fear can lead to a negative emotional consequence. And this impacts our lives daily. Now, what about the physical response of fear? Like I said, fight or flight, freeze or faint, right? So fear triggers physical responses in the body known as the fight, flight, freeze, faint response. Now, this response is coming from the primitive brain, right? Because it had to keep us safe. So physical danger was impending, right? So the perceived threat was there, and then we had to move into these 4 states because it was preparing us to be safe, So what are the changes that happen in the body when we perceive danger physically? Increased heart rate. When there is a sense of threat, it increases the heart rate. So the heart is pumping more blood to the muscles and to our vital organs so that we can flee, run away, okay? And this happens to us so often because physical danger is easier for us to perceive, right? Like everyday people who don't suffer from any kind of other fears, right? We've noticed rapid breathing because fear triggers our breathing because we need more oxygen, more energy. So we are breathing safe. Like say, to avoid, a robber, you're running, or to avoid whatever, a hurricane, you're running, right? Also sweating. Fear triggers sweating, which cools the body and helps us to regulate body temperature because we need it when we are fleeing, or then we freeze, or then we faint. Or we get ready to fight with somebody, fight danger. Muscular tension, it causes our muscles to tense up because it's preparing our body to fight, to protect ourselves because our existence is at stake, and the brain has the primary function of keeping us safe. It likes what's familiar. It doesn't like what's unfamiliar. Okay, so it will respond with these 2 states. Dilated pupils because it wants more light to enter the eye to improve our vision, preparing the body for potential danger. So on one side, you can see like how intensely intelligent our body is because its ultimate aim of the brain and the body is to keep us safe. But is it really serving us? Let's talk about digestive changes. Fear reduces the digestive system's activity, diverting the body's energy to our limbs, to other critical areas. So we don't have good digestion. So when we're afraid of something that we perceive as a threat, our digestion definitely gets impacted. And this leads to IBS and irritable bowel syndrome and all sorts of things, right? It also releases stress hormones. When the body senses fear, it releases stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and these increase the heart rate, raise blood pressure, and increase our blood sugar levels, right? And this is really, really important for us to understand also why we don't lose weight in spite of us keeping a healthy diet and exercise. If we are living in a state of fear, our digestion is definitely going to be impacted, especially with women, because our hormones function so differently. So the physical response to fear is natural because it's preparing us for danger. But prolonged excessive fear can cause physical symptoms like dizziness, nausea, fatigue, and it can impact our overall health and well-being physically, leading us to have low immunity. So as an energy therapist, I see the effects of fear all the time. And I had to deal with my own fears, which were psychological, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of rejection. I couldn't say no to people. And as you can see, I've written a book. It's right there behind me. It's called You Should Be Scared: How 7 Key Fears Can Set You Free. And in this, I talk about the 5 fears of my clients and my own 2 fears. And why did I write this book? Because I was always scared of writing a book. I never thought I could do it. And somebody challenged me to write a book in 21 days. And I got on a writing club and I wrote and published this book in 21 days as a tribute to my father on his 10th death anniversary. And I would like you to just pick up a copy of this book, because this book can really, really help you to understand the psychological effects of fear. Now, while sometimes they may be beneficial, the other times they can be very harmful, because the psychological effects of fear are very, very deep-seated. So some of them may include heightened awareness. Fear can cause a person to become very, very aware of their surroundings, leading to increased focus and attention to potential threats. But this heightened awareness state is not normal, so it leads to a lot of stress. Increased vigilance. Fear can lead to an increased state of vigilance about everything and everybody, and causing you to not trust people or to doubt people. It causes stress and anxiety, because stress and anxiety can be adaptive but also maladaptive. So while a moderate amount of anxiety can be helpful in certain situations, excess anxiety can lead to chronic stress, which leads to anxiety, depression, and other conditions. And it's detrimental to our mental and physical health. It can also cause avoidance behaviors. Fear can cause people to avoid other people, avoid situations, avoid commitments. It triggers the fear response, and this makes a person lead a very cocoon, sheltered, restricted, and limited life. Like I was talking earlier, depression. Chronic fear leads to feelings of helplessness, hopelessness. People are at a high risk of being depressed because there is nothing to look forward to. It's only you're stuck. It leads to trauma. Intense fear and exposure, prolonged exposure to intense fear leads to psychological trauma, which can change your brain chemistry and can be very debilitating and may require, most of the time, professional treatment. Post-traumatic growth. Now, while fear can lead to trauma, it can also lead to post-traumatic growth, where people will experience personal growth and positive changes as a result of overcoming a traumatic event. And that's exactly what is in my book. I've dealt with people with this and I've helped them. And so I encourage you to get this book. The psychological effects of fear can be very complex and vary depending upon person and situation. Now, fear can be very helpful. It's a necessary response to danger. We need to protect ourselves, but it can become harmful because it can become excessive, it can become irrational, it can become very biased, and seeking professional help from a mental health expert is very necessary. It could be a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a talk therapist, an energy therapist, because you need to be blessed with a fulfilling life. And this stops you from a fulfilling life. Let's not forget the mental responses to fear, which are anxiety. The mental responses are anxiety because it leads to worry. It leads to a feeling of being on the edge. It can lead to panic. When you can't mentally, when you can't be cognizant of your thoughts, it can lead to a state of panic. The psychological and the mental effects are quite related. You can constantly have negative thoughts about things, about people. You can have negative beliefs about others, about the world. You can have this negative mindset all the time. So you have to shift your mindset. It also leads to avoidance. You don't want to meet certain things because in your mental state, you perceive this person or this situation as not good for you. You can become hypervigilant. It leads to a high state of alertness, and this hypervigilance leads to you always sensing and perceiving wrongly danger in your environment, and this leads to phobias. And phobias it's a type of anxiety disorder which is characterized by irrational, persistent fears about objects or situations, like phobias, of water, of air, of land, of heights, of spiders, of dark places. Also, post-traumatic stress disorder. Fear can lead to PTSD, a type of anxiety disorder that develops when a person experiences a really, really traumatic event like war, like rape, like torture. Okay? The mental responses to fear have a significant impact on a person's mental health and well-being. And being a mental health, I don't like to use the word expert because I'm not. Being a mental health practitioner, and I serve people with depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, it becomes very important to allow people to release these fears so that they can lead a fulfilling life. Because I believe that we have the birthright to live a conscious life. Now, how do we address our fears and create a life consciously from an empowered state? Addressing our fears is a crucial step to overcoming them and living a more fulfilling life. And I'd like to share with you some steps that you can take to address your fears. The number one thing is you can do this with a therapist or on your own or with any mental health practitioner. The number one thing is to identify your fears. The first step is addressing your fears to identify them, because you need to know what they are. Write down what you're afraid of and try to be very specific about when do you think it was originated, the triggers, the situations, the objects or the causes of fear. The next is challenge your fears, and this I would really suggest to do with somebody who's experienced, and who has the capacity to help you. Challenge your fears and negative beliefs, that challenge your thoughts that fuel your fear. Try to reframe your thoughts, be more positive and balanced, and this you need to do with somebody who's a professional. The next one is seek support. Join a support group. Seek the support from a professional support group, from your friends, your family, a mental health expert, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a talk therapist, an energy therapist. You have to start developing coping strategies. Expose yourself gradually. It's a technique that's used to overcome specific fears such as phobias. You can't just expect you to release a phobia all of a sudden. You have to do it gradually. You have to understand the triggers. You have to use relaxation techniques. You have to manage anxiety. You have to, study it in detail. Self-care, taking care of yourself to manage your fears. Engage in activities that you enjoy. Get enough sleep, exercise regularly, practice mindfulness. Okay? Practicing mindfulness can really help you stay present and stay grounded and reduce this constantly, anticipating in the future, reliving from the past. Mindfulness techniques such as mindfulness meditations, which I teach, micro meditations, grounding exercises, naming 5 things in the environment. Things like this could help you, and taking action. You need to take action to address your fears, because you need to feel more in control and more empowered, and nobody can do this for you except you. Set small goals. Take incremental steps to overcome your fears. Like I said, do this with a professional, because it will cut down your learning curve by more than half. With a persistent and positive attitude, you can overcome your fears and live a more fulfilling life. I'm no one special, and I've done it. And I've helped hundreds of people one-on-one do it. I would like to tell you that each of these tools that we've just spoken about is what I teach people in the Conscious Creators Club. To be a conscious creator. Besides this, there's tons of content on how to align yourself with what you want, how to attract what you want into your life, how to achieve it. I've curated, one-to-one customized private therapy sessions keeping these in mind. In my 10 plus years of experience in the energy therapy field as an energy architect, after coaching more than 400 people one-to-one in the last 2 years alone, I can tell you that you can be free of fear. Fear will never leave you, but you don't have to be in its clutches. You can make friends with fear. It's possible for you to override your fears. The opposite of fear is courage, not fearlessness. And you can only do this with action. And that's why I am a CTA coach. So I invite you to join me for my 3-hour masterclass on the 26th of March. It's a Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., where I will give you the 3 tools that you need to shift your life in 2023 and start creating the life that you have a birthright to create. So click the first link below in the description to register. You're also going to get fantastic bonuses, and you get 4 free gifts the moment you sign up, delivered to your inbox. Grab a copy of my trending book on Amazon. The link again is below. Unravel your fears and understand that through the stories of 5 of my therapy clients, you can learn how they navigated their deepest fears. This book is priced at less than the price of coffee at any coffee shop of your liking. Okay? So I want to encourage you to share this video, to drop a comment, to subscribe, to like this video, and to tell us what you would like, what you would like me to do the next video on. I try to address issues that don't need therapy online on YouTube, but that can still help you, that can give you some kind of insight, that can give you some nuggets where then you can decide for yourself, do I want to go further with this, or is this enough for me? I'm not here to dictate any terms to you. I'm your friend, I'm your sister in alignment and healing. And like I always say, stay true to being you because you matter. And I'm Avril Q.